For you that aren't metal fans, I guess don't watch this. Gojira are one of the best metal bands of the past 15 years, honestly up there with one of the heavyweights of metal, keeping it alive. Up there with Mastodon, in my opinion, of one of the few bands that have yet to screw up and keep creating great album after great album. So if you don't know Gojira, let's fix that. They're a French heavy metal band from Bayonne. They were originally known as Godzilla until 2001, if you didn't get that. Gojira, it's confirmed that's Joe Duplantier, rhythm guitarist and vocals, and Mario Brontier on drums. Lead guitarist is Christian Andrieu and Jean-Michel Labaudet on bass. They released 6 live albums, and just, you know, even though they've gone in somewhat under the radar, but they've gone from just beyond obscure to one of the biggest releases every time they come out with an album, and now they're on the metal radio every single time they put out an album. When they started back in 1996, it was from their hometown of Andres. They combined elements of death metal with groove and thrash, and the band was under Godzilla, and you know, they toured with huge bands all the way from Cannibal Corpse, Edge of Sanity. From there, after their debut, they went on to make The Link in 2003 and went on a tour with Children of Boam, Trivium, Machine Head, Behemoth, Job for a Cowboy, The Way of the Flesh came out from there, and you know, you can just see the wind-up as they start to get bigger. 2008, they released on Prosthetic Rushers, The Way of the Flesh, opening for Lamb of God, and Metallica. I mean, that's as big as it gets. And they made Levantin Salvage, which is probably my favorite album of theirs after that, and created this album, Magma. And Magma's a painful album. It really is. I think that's one of the biggest things, is this is an album about loss. The French metal brothers, the Duplantier brothers, lost their mother in the process. This is the grieving album that they created as homage to her. You know, metal is pain. You know, a lot of pain can be given through metal and gotten rid of through metal, and they work through it here on this, and it's beautiful. It's one of the most emotional albums of the year by far, and you know, it's different. It's lighter, but it's still a great metal album. So if you're one of those metal fans that doesn't like the lighter side of metal, just give it a chance. You know, the loss was heavy here, and it's still beautiful music. The style's a little different. From their Shooting Star, it's clear in the first half of the lyrics that it's a very different opening from the usual Gojira. The explosion of screams are not where they usually are, and instead is replaced with a grinding, progressive riff and clean vocals. This is a very hypnotic look, though, as they go through themselves and the lives of pain. The clean vocals here are, you know, they're not a first, but this is definitely the focal point of the song, and they prove to be a driving point of this album as a more emotional way of doing things. Instead of screaming, they're just emoting. Calm for Gojira is still metal as hell, though, when I mean that. This song is a great trance-like hypnotic progressive song on the album. Is huge, and I think, you know, it might even be easy to accessible music for a more intro to metal fan, if you get what I mean. You can actually understand how to get into Gojira's later stuff from this. From there, Silvera drops the clean lyrics for now with a crunchy line and sweeping guitars. Clean vocals is one of the most, you know, they come back later with one of the most catchy vocal lines they've ever written. It's emotionally huge, and sing-alongs are bound to be wonderful for this, and I've seen them live. I can say that it does happen for this song specifically. The guitar solo in the middle is just a great driving source, and they continue to heavy progressive style from the openers. They kick it up a notch. This is a personal favorite of mine and a huge highlight. The Cell has an opening line that screams of the loss of pain and drives straight into this huge chugging guitar and drum section. The song shows off their musical ability as they jump around all over the place in pace, style, sound, progressive leanings just over everywhere. From there we get to Stranded, which is another single from them, and the most straightforward metal song they've made. It's almost sounds like a little bit like newer Mastodon with chorus-heavy progressive style. It's the most accessible they've ever been. It's great for all metal fans, but the riff is so good, and the chorus is so fun to sing along to. I think that it's going to be even fun for the more seasoned metal and Gojira fans. Try as you might not to like this song, it gets stuck in your head. It's insanely catchy. They use clean vocals for the chorus, but they screams come close to album heaviness, but you know, it's a more mainstream song. The basic riff makes the song, and I think it's a highlight. Yellowstone slows down with a doom riff, and as much of a song as it is, it's more just an intermission for the album before you get to the meat and potatoes of the album, which is Magma, the title track. It's this 7-minute long atmospheric chug-along progressive song. It sounds like different from anything they've ever made, and I love it for that. It starts very atmospheric and touches on this chug-along guitar bass. It seems like the vocals touch on the lightness of this and spirituality of losing someone in vocals. Don't worry, metal fans, though, it's 7 minutes long. They do not forget to bring the metal on this, with huge riffs that drift in and out. It was a masterpiece of a song. It's perfect in every way. It's a highlight if there ever was one. Pray. Here you go. For the heavier metal fans. If you were worried they forgot to bring some of the heavy, they didn't. The clear riff here should seriously clear that up. Start again with less of an atmospheric vibe, and they bring it down into grinding guitar that gets added on through the whole song as it comes to a huge climax during the drum section. They stick to mostly clean vocals here on this track, but approach it in a very dark and heavy way that's accompanied by huge riffs. Only Pain is kind of a background drum that leads into a huge progressive riff, and they make a damper distortion sound to let the vocals shine underneath, unleashing the full guitar. It's another song that you can hear some of the most painful lyrics they've ever written. It's the loss of their mom. Then you get to Lowlands, which is a much slower song like Magma, but unlike Magma, it's more of a groove than atmospheric feel to it, in my opinion again. Starting with distant drumming, adding the guitar subtly, and the vocals shine with the most intimate and clean lyrics I've ever heard from Gojira, almost channeling Ghost. This song is so unlike Gojira, anything they've ever made. I think it's atmospherically groove. It's just fun to listen to. It's an album highlight and it's beautiful. And then you get to the closer, Liberation. They close things on a somber note with feelings of acceptance and pain, and it's acoustic guitar driven by a bongo. And I think that's what's beautiful about it, is it's not a song that feels like it was written by one of the world's best metal bands. It feels like it could have been written by anyone. I think that's kind of the point, though. Like, the acceptance of pain is the same for anyone, not just for metal bands that are huge. And that's why it feels to me like it's cool that it's a line that sounds like it could have been played by anyone around a campfire that's going through the pain of loss. It's not about making a song to appease anyone. It was about the ending process to finding a sonic story from beginning to end. And it's the healing of this and the acceptance of this that feels like the final send-off to the eulogy to their mom, and it's beautiful. This song is one of the most powerful emotional albums of this or any year, and it does so by creating this intimate, accessible album, but it's raw and emotional, and it's shorter. It's straight to the point. It has a beginning, middle, and end. It's got a progressive feel, but it's a simple journey of loss. They've created an album that serves as both a eulogy to their mom and an insight to the steps and the 5 steps of grief. And you could take that farther if you wanted, go and look and try to find where each step was on this album, but I don't see the point. The music stands for itself. And if you don't want to check it out because you're a little bit skeptical on later Gojira, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because you're never going to get a better insight to the mind of a great metal band like this. And they've evolved in ways here that I think would be a huge loss to miss out on. It's a masterpiece. And like Magma itself, it was unexpected, it's slow and building and powerful. I would check it out in every way. Honestly, I think the recommendation for tracks will be different for everyone who listens to it. 5 out of 5 stars. Again, Gojira, you made a case for every new album you've ever made being the best one. And you do it again.